Hey, everybody. Welcome back to 49ers First Take for some football commentary. I have a special guest. He's one half of the Nuggets of Gold podcast. Their channel's Nuggets of Gold 49ers Media, but they go by either. I want my never-ending quest to have different 49ers content creators on my channel. I love going back and forth with ideas and opinions with people. Some are younger, some are older. Matt here is definitely of the younger generation, but I definitely respect his opinions and I'd like to hear them. And I want to get eyes on his channel. I'm all about wanting to have the whole 49ers community grow and become just a really big, saturated 49ers content creators on YouTube. So, Matt, welcome to the channel. Thanks for coming on. And how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on. I have seen from your channel that you bring a ton of people on. That's really cool. I'm trying to start doing the same thing, so I'll definitely have to have you on my show. We'll have to have some conversations there. But
Absolutely.
my channel's for the most daily for the most part. I usually do a video every day talking about whatever the topic is really of that day. Sometimes those are coming from or comments from Twitter. Sometimes those are ridiculous statements from Twitter, but it kind of just depends on what 49 like the 49er faithful is talking about, and really just what's going on in the season, in the off season, whatever it is. So really excited today. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, even though it's the bye week. So really excited to talk about the 49ers.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I love to interact with the community. Like I said, young or old. It doesn't really matter. You're still a fan, and we still get mad, and we still are happy, depending on what the Niners do for us. I want to get right into it. I kind of talked to you off stream. What do you make of the 49ers right now? What's the state of the situation, the state of things? I personally am not feeling great about, more than anything. The thing I don't feel great about is the leadership. And I'm talking Kyle, John. I'm just getting a weird vibe. 5 years in, we're still having some of the same issues we had back in 2017. I'm wondering, do you kind of have the same feeling, the same vibe? Are you more optimistic with the coaching and the GM, or like what's your take on everything?
So I feel like I'm optimistic, but that doesn't mean that there's not some concerns. I definitely think there are some concerns right now going just around the 49ers building. We saw today, I don't know if you were looking into this, but John Lynch basically said that Brandon Ayuk isn't like where they want him to be.
I saw that.
That's really not a good sign. Like, that's not what you want to hear at all. So there's a
Right.
lot of things where you're looking at it, and there's a lot of I don't know, there's just a lot of ways where you can be optimistic about Kyle. We've seen all of his success in the past in terms of play calling, whatnot. But can we look at the last couple of weeks and go, pretty questionable moves? I think we can. And I hate to be like a couch coordinator. Like, I have said that on my channel as well. But there are some plays where it's just like, why is this the move? This is weird. Another thing, the 49ers on defense, their defenses look pretty good, but they have one glaring hole, and it's that they get picked apart by top-end wide receivers. And you look at that and you go, well, that's a little bit weird that your roster construction almost completely excludes the cornerback room. So there's just some questions where, and I do believe in Kyle. I do believe in John. Adam Peters, D'Amico Ryans, the other faces around there that I do have a lot of faith in. But right now, anytime you lose 3 games in a row, it's going to look pretty rough. I think the bye comes at the perfect time where maybe in 2 weeks we all go, okay, I think everyone was overreacting a little bit. But does it look rough right now? Absolutely. It 100% does. So I am concerned, but I am also optimistic about the future. I'm a huge Trey Lance guy. I'm sure we'll get into him later on in this episode, but I absolutely love Trey Lance. So, there are definitely reasons to be excited, but whenever you come into a season with Super Bowl aspirations, because the Niners did, and if you didn't believe that they were a Super Bowl contender coming into this year, they themselves did believe that. And so anytime you start out the year 2-3, when you have that feeling and you think that that's what your team is, it hurts. So I think that's right now why we're seeing a lot of fans frustrated. And I think we're seeing the 49ers players, coaching, management, everyone a little bit frustrated right now.
I guess my biggest thing is we're so far into this regime, and some of the problems that we have, we're still kind of, we had them in 2017. Really, we have two quarterbacks, but it's a guessing game from us fans who Kyle really, who his guy is. From all indications from me, he was not a big Jimmy Garoppolo guy. He always wanted Kirk Cousins. Then all of a sudden we draft Trey Lance and Jimmy's the unquestioned starter, which I understand because he's experienced, he's steady, he knows the offense, he's a leader. But we've seen what he is. He's a average quarterback. He's got average arm talent. People say he's a winner, but I forgot the stat I heard the other day. I don't know if it was from Larry Kruger or somebody from KNBR radio. His record in the last, I don't know, like 10, 11 games is not the greatest. So we got to stop going back on that whole, Jimmy's got a great record thing. I just, between the quarterback situation and just, the injuries are still a problem. It's just, we, like you said, corner, like our organization, 49ers organization, their roster construction, like you said, excludes corners. They're all about defensive linemen, and that's great. But your defensive line doesn't get there every play, and you got to have something comparable on the back end to make up for when you don't get there. And they haven't really put that as a priority for a long time, and it's starting to show. And they have a really strong linebacking group. They have a really strong defensive line, but like you said, that secondary is their Achilles heel. And anytime they play really good top flight wide receivers like Devontae Adams or Hopkins, they're going to get exposed. So I don't know, man. Like I'm just all over the map with my feelings about John and Kyle. I'm definitely frustrated. I'm also hard to please. So like you're more optimistic. My optimism has dwindled because of, just it's like you said, it's 4 out of 5 years or have been so far not that great. So you mentioned Trey Lance, so I wanted to get your opinion on how you thought he played. I'll give you mine after the fact, but what's your opinion on Trey Lance after his first start in the NFL?
So I'll start out by saying coming into the draft process and all that, I absolutely love Trey Lance. I have a jersey over here, actually. Got it on draft night. He was my quarterback too. I thought he was better than Zach Wilson. I thought he was better than Justin Fields. Now I also love Justin Fields. I only had him behind Trevor Lawrence. And I get that there wasn't a lot of film on him, but I thought he's the most comparable guy to two guys I didn't like. I won't give myself credit here. I wasn't a big Justin Herbert guy, wasn't a big Josh Allen guy. But what we saw just because those guys, like in terms of like their accuracy and their footwork and just overall like their throwing mechanics and whatnot, maybe less of Justin Herbert, but more of Josh Allen. A lot of people knocked him on that, including myself. And you saw the third year, he took such a leap last season. He took such a leap, and he's put himself into that top tier of quarterbacks, which in 3 seasons is an incredible thing to do. And I think that Trey Lance is the most similar guy to him in terms of some of the guys that have come out lately. Also, so then we go into this game. The first week, it started out rough. Now, anytime you're a super young quarterback and you just get thrown into a rival game, it's probably going to look pretty terrible. But after he settled in, he started looking pretty good, put up good overall numbers. Now, he did have the big touchdown on the blown coverage. But this week against the Cardinals, he was the youngest and the rawest player that has ever started a game at quarterback. And he might not have been the complete youngest, like in terms of days, but he has played so little meaningful football. Like you could really boil down to he's played a half of meaningful football because he didn't play Division I ball, and so his learning curve is he's going to learn so much as this goes on. And if he's doing it right now at 21 years old and almost no experience, sorry about that, and almost no experience.
I have the same thing in my background.
Yeah, so he has almost no experience, right? And we see him come in, and he almost knocks off an undefeated team. Now, granted, they only scored 10 points. He almost scored a touchdown on the 1 yard line, but it felt like he was all of the offense. Their offensive line, McGlinchey and Brunskill, were getting absolutely torched. It felt like every play they were losing off the line of scrimmage, and he's able to extend it and make plays. I think it was Dante Whitner came out and said, yeah, that game's going to look a lot different. No, it was Budda Baker. Budda Baker came out and said, yeah, if Jimmy Garoppolo started, that game's going to look a lot different and like not in a pretty way. And he was the guy who had a pick. I think that it makes sense that they're trying to like ease him in just because he's so young, doesn't have that experience. But that first outing to me showed that you have a better chance now maybe not right this second, but you have a better chance as the year goes on to win with him than you do with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think it's time to make the switch. I know it's pretty early. I was a little bit like higher on like, okay, he should start week 1. And then you kind of like realize like, maybe he's not quite there. And I get the other side of it, but I just think the more experience he gets, the more he's going to improve. I think in that game, you saw him make like subtle improvements where there was one play where he got a ball batted down. Also, that will fix itself. That is a rookie quarterback thing right there to get passes knocked down the line of scrimmage, especially with his long motion right now. But you saw him, he got a ball knocked down, and then it was like a swing route. I forget who was running it. He goes to throw the swing route. I think it was Mitchell. And Chandler Jones is flying up the field, and he hesitates, pumps, waits, lets Chandler Jones pass, and then hits him. And it's just little things like that where he's processing the game, and he's just like, okay, I get this. This is what this looks like. And just very little things. And we're already seeing that so early on. So I am extremely excited. And like I said, it's frustrating because they've been losing. But I think we should all be really excited off of that first start. So, but what were your thoughts on it?
I don't think the game's too big for him. I think he's very, very calm. I do want him to have a little more sense of urgency sometimes, like with the play clock. If he is doing stuff with protections at the line of scrimmage, one of the broadcasters said, he's very relaxed and he's very calm. You just don't be to the point where you're a little bit laissez-faire with your mechanics or whatever. But other than that, I knew he was going to throw a pick. It's just he's got that funky arm delivery. He's a little erratic sometimes with his accuracy. But like I said, the game didn't look too big for him. His teammates did him no favors in that game. Receivers with drops, offensive line played absolutely horrendous. I am very excited for the future. I get both sides of the story. I understand why people want Jimmy in there. If we're winning and we're successful this year and Jimmy's the quarterback, I wouldn't change it either. However, if this season starts to slide, and I hate to kind of put the kid in a dumpster fire, but if the season starts to slide, he needs all the reps he could get, because if you get him reps this year, and this year is a total waste and we don't go anywhere, he comes in the next offseason with so much experience. He's going to be so far ahead. If he sits all year and he doesn't do anything, we're going to be in the same position. He needs to be out there as much as possible. So if we're successful and Jimmy comes back as a quarterback, as much as I love to say Trey, I'm like, okay, stick with Jimmy. But like I said, if it becomes, see, I got speeding motorcycles too in the background. But if it comes to a point where, like I said, if the season is kind of lost, and I would give him as much experience as possible, because I don't think the game's too big for him. You see his potential. It's like there's glimmers of it. It's hidden by all some of his mistakes and, batted balls and bad offensive line play and drop passes. So I'm really excited. I like that he's a what they call a 5-tool player, kind of like a baseball player. He can do more than just stand in the pocket and throw footballs. He can move, he can run. Yeah, I'm pumped. It's sad that he got beat up as much as he did in that game, though.
That is true. And that's also something too that happens to a lot of younger quarterbacks too. When they just need to go out there and it's all right, we need to pick up yards. You're not going to consistently complete passes. We got to run the ball with you. And so I saw a lot of people were really upset about that, him getting so many carries. When he learns how to slide, it's going to look a little bit different. There was one play, I think it was Mark Sanchez said when he was running towards the sideline, he cut back in. He's like, "Yeah, he won't do that after this week. Don't worry, guys. Like he's gonna hop out of bounds in that situation." But you can see like he's a gamer. He's a big time gamer. Another thing that I think didn't really get talked about much. He doesn't force as many passes as Jimmy Garoppolo does. Like his decision making, yes, it is slow. Like, and you talked about the sense of urgency. I think it takes him a while to process, just kind of see the game and process it.
Yeah, he's slow to see the field right now a little bit still. You can see
but he doesn't force passes though. Like there was, I don't think of one pass, like he threw the pick, but it was a high ball. He didn't like look and just go, "Oh, I completely missed this linebacker," and throw right to him. Jimmy's good for like 2 of those a game. So I honestly do think there's and I feel like a lot of people think that there's not, but I do think there's an argument that throwing him out there now helps you win. Now you might have a couple games where he completely loses the game. Like that will happen with young quarterbacks, but their offense hasn't looked good when Jimmy Garoppolo's been under center. Their offense hasn't looked good at all. Nope. And so if you have a guy like him where I don't know if you saw this, I think he had 282 yards
total
over
offense.
Over his last 10 starts. He's only got more than that or that twice.
Yeah.
So you're already seeing like he's a huge part of the offense, and they really put the entire game on his shoulders.
They did.
Mitchell had 9 carries? Like it was all on him that week. So
saying what we said, do you think Jimmy gets his job back after the bye week?
I do think he does.
Yeah.
But I don't think he should.
I'm so conflicted because you should never lose your job to injury. But there's a part of me that says we've seen what he is, and it's not good enough anymore. And people like the winning record. That it hasn't been that much of a winning record the last. I don't know where this. I know you know what I'm talking about. There was a stat out there of Jimmy's. I don't know how many starts it was, but like I'm tired of hearing that. You know, like, oh, he's a winner when he plays. We just win. There's so many contributing factors to that. You know, whether it's the running game or the defense. I don't know how to read Kyle Shanahan anymore. I don't know what he wants. There's rumors that he didn't even want Trey Lance. He was vetoed. I don't know if you've listened to Grant Cohn. He's really adamant about that. So we'll see. If Jimmy comes in and plays well, I'm okay with it. But if it's more of the same, we score 7 points and a half, put the kid out there, man. Let him go. You never know. He might catch on this year and be on fire.
Exactly.
Who's to say he won't catch on this year and start to get it? Guys need to catch some passes for him, and McGlinchey and Brunskill need to either learn how to block or get out of there. Like that was just abysmal.
JJ Watt I know he didn't record a sack, but he had an absolute field day. Like he was in the backfield with like every single play. And honestly, anyone that they put on McGlinchey. And I will also say for that, the reason why you see that is because he doesn't have George Kittle right next to him, helping him out on all those blocks and chipping the defenders. When George is out, McGlinchey in one-on-one situations gets absolutely killed. Like he and in the run game too, that was the other thing. Like even downfield, like UTM just missed guys. And there was multiple plays. I think it was one of the 4th downs where he just completely whiffed on his block, and that's the guy who went and made the play. I think it might have been Watt in that case. And yes, JJ Watt is an amazing player, but like you still got to be able to hold yours. Zach Allen had that big play as well, like completely blew him up. You just can't lose that much as a tackle, or you're gonna get forced to play inside. And from McGlinchey, I don't know if that's even like I've talked about it, like they at least need to try that out. But he's 6'8". There's not many guards that are 6'6" up. There's a couple. Kyle Long was 6'6". But 6'8" is absolutely huge for a guard. So it's just tough because like they picked up his 5th-year option, but it's not looking too hot right now.
Right. This isn't even a topic that I have written down, but do you think they extend him after this after his 5th year, or do you think the Niners move on from him? You think they give Jalen Moore? Is it Jalen Moore or Jalen Smith?
Moore.
Somebody says that he should get kicked out to right tackle, and I'm not totally against that. So
he came in for Trent, and he looked bad, but
yeah,
he's a rookie, so him right now and him a year from now is going to look entirely different. Like that's why so many like rookies don't start. Um, the one that's always going to haunt the Niners is not being able to hang on to Buckner and then going and getting Kinlaw. And I like Kinlaw, but they could have had Tristan Wirfs. And you look at the
yes,
offense and you look why it hurts so bad. If you have Wirfs, like this offense is going to look a lot different. So I think that one's always going to hurt. Now hindsight's 2020. I still like Kinlaw, but I don't think he's going to be a dominant 3 tech like DeForest Buckner was, or really that close to him, which sucks because like he is always going to get compared to him, even though he shouldn't. Like there's no reason why like Javon Kinlaw should get picked on for the Niners moving on from Buckner, but it does hurt. So I don't know. I think that if he continues to play how he's played the last year and now this year, I don't think we'll see McClinchy potentially even after this year.
yeah,
I
I'm
agree
hope.
with
Yeah,
him.
he agrees. Play Lance. Jimmy won't be back next year. I hope we get a resolution. Everybody, comments, Matt, everyone here. I hope we get a resolution soon with this whole quarterback debacle, because I'm getting pretty tired of it. It's a pretty tired mental exercise to have to think and listen about all the time. So it's not in my notes, but I wanted to get your opinion on George Kittle. I'm starting to okay, he's one of my favorite players. I have his jerseys. But man, he's really starting to fall out of favor with me. It's like, can he stay healthy? He puts so much work into his body in the offseason, and yet the guy is like literally always hurt. And it's starting to it's starting to wear on me because I know guys don't get hurt on purpose, but I don't know, man. Like they gave him that big fat contract, and like he barely played last year, and now he's out again this year. And I don't know. What's your opinion on him?
So I did see something the other day, which is very interesting because we saw Kittle's year almost end against the Seahawks when Jimmy threw a ball across the middle that was very high, and you say, I do not know how his knee did not tear on that play. Like that is
Exactly.
unbelievable that his knee's okay. I'm assuming that is part of the reason why he is on IR, like that specific play. Now he obviously had the calf strain too. Um, it's always tough with injury, like you're saying, like because you can't like blame the player, but it is frustrating, like watching like, oh, this guy's never on the field. Um, I I saw a stat of Kittle's last 4 injuries. 3 of them are from errant throws where it's way up in the air and then he gets hit like from behind in a weird angle. And if you think about it, there was that one against the Seahawks, and then there were 2 in back-to-back seasons against the Cardinals where there was that kind of play. So I think it's more of weird stuff. Now, the other side of it is just his style of play and also the 49er style of play. You're going to see guys get hurt. The one thing that is great about Kittle is that he will play through many injuries. Like we've seen him do that multiple times. I don't think that he's ever going to be a guy that's like super healthy, but I think that they shut him down this year because it was like, all right, you just got it re-aggravated, putting you out for 3 weeks. We can have faith that you're going to play the rest of the year and this isn't going to nag you and you can be 100%. I did see some people like really frustrated about his like performance wise. We got to remember how great he is in the run game, because when he's in the game, their yards per carry goes up by 2 on average when he's been a part of the 49ers organization. So if he's not putting up the receiving numbers that Darren Waller and Travis Kelce are, it's hard to compare them just because the schemes are so different. And Kittle's skill set is so unique in the sense of he's basically like an extra tackle out there at sometimes. So I think there was a couple games like against the Eagles, Kittle was having an absolute field day in the run game. Like I went to that game and it seemed like after every play, he was on top of someone, pancake blocking him downfield, and just getting up, yelling, and getting so hyped. So I still have a ton of faith in Kittle. I think it's hard with the injuries just because like he's always going to be a guy that gets banged up just because of his style of play. But in terms of his performance, I haven't been upset about his performance or anything like that.
Just want to say a quick shout out to 49ers Ultimate Report. John J., thank you for the $2 super chat. Appreciate it. John J., I don't know if you know him, 49ers Ultimate Report. He's one of the, like I said, he's one of the litany of 49ers YouTubers. Niners have a lot of YouTubers, like a lot.
Oh yeah.
We have a ton. When I came onto the scene almost 2 years ago, I was pretty focused on my own thing. When I started collabing with people, I mean, I'm talking like Jason Aponte, Last Second Sports. Like, I was like, first of all, I didn't have the stones when I first started to ask any of those guys. I figured I have to get some traction, and that's pretty much what I did. I got my traction, and then little by little, I just started, talking to people on Twitter. Like I reached out to you, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And some people respond, some people don't. My track record with players is bad. I can never get a player to respond, but my track record with people of like media types, like Larry Kruger from KNBR and Locked On 49ers, Brian Peacock. I never thought in a million years that would happen, but it's just, there's so many people that talk about the 49ers, and I just think it's great. And 49ers Ultimate Report is one of them. Like I said, there's a litany of others, Jay and the Bay, Niner Sickness, yourself and your co-host.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, we're pretty spoiled in 49er land. For people that just watch us and don't have their own channels, you guys got it good because there's other fan bases that have next to nothing. So thank you again, John Jay, for the $2 super chat. Speaking of quarterbacks and offensive line and all that stuff, what is going on with the offense this year, man? Like both quarterbacks, doesn't matter who's in there. We're bad. Like we don't score any points other than week 1, where we pretty much did what I thought we were going to do to the Lions. This offense has been pretty stagnant and pretty, they really haven't done much. What's your take on all that?
So I think the biggest issue with the offense is definitely the right side of the offensive line. And also, not trying to rip on this guy, but Alex Mack hasn't looked that great. Now, he's had like a hand injury. He's had like multiple injuries. Like he's definitely playing banged up. And I never thought he was going to come over and be like prime Alex Mack or anything like that. But for the Niners to get that just like an above average center, that was such a huge piece of the offseason for me. And okay, you have him back. Oh, you draft Aaron Banks to come and play right guard. Then that helps out McGlinchey a little bit. And we've seen Aaron Banks he's inactive every week. Daniel Brunskill, who did flash in 2019, he's really struggled. McGlinchey's really struggled. And so basically Lakin and Trent have looked pretty good. But besides that, the offensive line can't really do much. There was like, I don't know what you'd call it, like a chart of which gaps Mitchell ran in on Sunday. And when he goes to the left side, he's doing way better in terms of yards per carry than he is when he goes to the right side. When he's running off McGlinchey, or last game when he ran off McGlinchey, he got stuffed every time. I think it was like 2 or 3 attempts, didn't even pick up a yard. So it's struggle. It's a big struggle right now. Kyle, I think it's hard for me to blame all of it on Kyle. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been play calls, the use check one, and I get very loud when I watch football. Like I was very frustrated when that happened. But for the most part, there's guys running open downfield. Like there are guys just, oh, look at Ayuk. Ayuk's wide open. And for what reason, like they're not getting the ball. Now, I think we saw Trey Lance come in and push the ball a lot more. But when Jimmy Garoppolo was under center, he had thrown, there was a chart, and it was 10 yards up the field. And then in the tackle box, it was 20 yards up the field. So like very simple throws, like very elementary throws in terms of quarterbacking. And outside of that area, he had completed 4 passes in other areas of the field. When defenses see that and they see those tendencies, they just hang around the middle of the field. And that's why you saw Quandre Diggs pick him off early in that game. And you see any receiver, Debo and Kittle have been getting absolutely killed across the middle this year when Jimmy's been in. So I think that's a huge area. And it honestly, when you watch them, it just feels like they're limited. And so I don't know if it's hard because like it is always like part of it is going to be on the coach, but you have to be able to push the ball downfield. And then when you do see Trey Lance in, and like I said, I love Trey, but at this point, he's not consistent in that middle area of the field. So it's almost like with one guy, you have all those big shots, you have that style of play, but you don't have that consistency in the middle of the field. Where the other guy is, it's only that consistency in the middle of the field, and he doesn't push the ball downfield. So it's really hard when you're running an offense, and when so much of it is predicated on being able to run the football and then taking those deep shots, when you just can't do the little things. And I think that's what's hurt them the most. It's just there's not consistency, and you'll see a big drop on third down, or you'll see a missed throw on third down, or whatever it is, or you'll see there was one play in this game where they ran the football on, I think it was 4th and 2, and people were really frustrated by the play call, but the play was there. Brunskill got thrown to the side, and the guy completely blew up his spot. Like, from a coaching standpoint, it's just like, all right, the right guard needs to hold his own. He doesn't need to go out there and level a guy and get to the second level. No, he just needs to hold his guy and stay in that spot. And you see him get blown up, and then they blow up the running back, and I think it was Mitchell, and he didn't get the first. So it's tough in spots where like you just are not executing. And that's what it's really been, is I don't think they've been executing. And then there's been sprinkled in some questionable play calls as well. But I think that's also like Kyle's trying to like do some different stuff, and it's just it's not working. It definitely isn't. So hopefully the bye kind of, all right, let's take a step back. I listened to the Haberman and Middlecoff podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They were like, all right, Kyle, I think Kyle needs to go take a vacation, just have a week off and just kind of detox for a minute and then come back and come after it, just because it feels like every time they show him on the sideline, he looks so angry. So I think it's just a lot of struggling, a lot of lack of execution, and then just some questionable play calls as well, which is weird from Kyle. You typically don't see that.
I think one of the big reasons too that they're struggling on offense is penalties, lack of discipline. You'd think that 5 years into a regime, we wouldn't have these glaring issues, but we still do. And that's one thing that I am disappointed with Kyle Shanahan and this whole regime, is that there's not an onus put on, penalties and trying not to commit penalties, or just, I don't know, just this team, for whatever reason, under Kyle Shanahan, is turnover prone and penalty prone, and it hasn't changed. And it's every time they'll make a really good play, and we'll see it on the field, and all of a sudden we see that little banner go by where it says flag, and I'm like, oh my god. I think McGlinchey and Trent Williams held on the same play during that game. I swear to you, man. I've gotten really good of not punching things during games, but I almost went back to my old ways of just like putting my fist through something. I was getting so mad. I had to go to work at like 4 a.m, and I'm an East Coaster, so I'm watching this game. I'm getting super agitated, and I have to be to bed immediately after the game. So I was just like so miserable. I stayed quiet most of the game, didn't say anything, but there was a couple instances, like you said, where you just want to scream or stand up and say something. I don't know. Kyle just comes off right now like he's just miserable, like he doesn't want to be there. I don't know what that's from, or why he is that way. It's like, I don't know if you listen to Grant Cohn. I know a lot of people can't stand him, or they don't like his takes, but he made
I like
it.
Grant.
I'm kind of wishy-washy on him. Sometimes I like him, but he always ends up being right in a lot of times, which is crazy, even though he comes off like a smart ass. Yeah, he even made the comment. It just like, does he look like someone who wants to be the coach? I don't know, man. It's that's what happens when your team is losing. You have all these different things that you're thinking about. Like we're talking about penalties, we're talking about turnovers, we're talking about, does the coach want to be here? Who should be the quarterback? This guy's not getting the ball. This guy's in the doghouse. If we were winning, we wouldn't be talking about any of this stuff right now. So, I'm just looking forward to coming off this bye week, and hopefully we get a new, refreshed, mentally focused team and coach. And maybe we had a pretty tough schedule to start, and we almost won 2 of those games. I think right now we should be 4-1, honestly. So,
I mean, you can make the argument that they should have won them all.
Yeah.
The first half of Seattle was probably, in terms of like throughout the whole NFL, that was probably one of the most dominated halves by one team, and it was 7-7. Like,
Yep.
there's no business that game should even be close at that point. It easily could have been a 20-point game going into halftime, and that's why I think it hurts so bad. And then you see them, the way that they've come. I mean, the way that they've come out in some of these games is just so flat. That's what I feel like. That's what hurts. The stuff about Kyle. I'm a San Diego Padres fan, so I don't know how much you follow baseball. They had one of the most epic collapses ever this season in terms of post trade deadline. They had one of the biggest in the history of the MLB, and you see it. Like everyone is frustrated. Guys are extremely angry, and that's just what losing does. Now, the thing is that I think the part of it that is different for the Niners is you saw early on when Kyle was there and they were losing a lot. It wasn't that feeling. But the difference is the expectations for this team compared to those teams when you have Brian Hoyer at quarterback. It's so much different. So I think that's why you see all the frustration. I mean, if I'm coaching the Niners right now and it's looking like that, I'm probably going to look frustrated on the sideline too. So, like, it's tough, though. I definitely get I think everyone's just really frustrated. Also, yes, I'm rooting for the Giants as well now.
I'm East Coast, northern, like, what do you call Western New York. I live in what's called Rochester, which is like live near Lake Ontario. So it's
Okay.
Bills country over here, and the
Gotcha.
Bills are doing
I'm in
really
Manhattan,
good.
actually.
You're in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it's so you're a little bit. We're both. You're considered East Coast too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with you over there, it's what the Jets and the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bills country over here. So I don't know what my point is, but point being, I totally forgot what I was going to say. I had something I was building up towards it, but all I'll say is that Kyle Shanahan and I think John Lynch, as I'm going to go into my next topic, I think part of the reason that they look upset or disgruntled, especially Kyle, is this is kind of a make or break season. Now, Kyle might not lose his job or get fired, which is the same thing. But if the Niners have a really, really poor season again, do you think somebody should be on the hot seat? And if you do, who do you think falls on the sword? My personal observation is it's going to be someone like Kyle or John Lynch. What is your feelings on if this season tanks? Does somebody have to, pay the piper, so to speak?
So I think for this year, it would be tough. I mean, I don't think they will because I think Kyle and John are Jets guys. Like we saw like right before the draft, like they were all hanging out and doing stuff, and like he definitely is like this is the future of the team. I think that's what they believe. I do think if there's one guy that would kind of be more on the hot seat, it would be John Lynch because they also have Adam Peters there that could potentially take over. The guy that is more credited with the scouting. I still think John Lynch is important from like stability and like fundamentally for the organization. But as we've seen and as we've talked about today, it feels like that's been lacking a little bit this season. So that's like, in my opinion, that's his job. Like his job is more like a president than it is like I'm going to go and I'm going to grind the tape. Like that's not what John Lynch is doing. Like he's there to be the face of the franchise and to be that guy. It's like, oh, he's the Hall of Famer. He's been there. He's done this. He's going to provide that structure. But if that structure kind of looks like it's falling apart, then I do think it's going to be more on him. I don't think Kyle should be. One, I don't know who you're going to replace with Kyle in even a few coaching sprees of the talent, the coaching talent that he has. We also have to remember too, they have two first-time coordinators as well. And that is something that I didn't really think about going into the year. That hurts. That makes it really tough. So I don't think it would be Kyle. I think John Lynch would be that guy. But I also, even if they struggle this year, I think it would take another year of struggling for that to be the case. But then I do think it would be John Lynch, and I do think John Lynch would end up being on the hot seat. Now that's quite some time, and we're still early on this year, but I do think it'd be John.
Tommy Huxley had a great question. He says, is the championship window closed? It's definitely inching shut. Now, I will say this. We have talent on this team. We are not bereft of talent. We have a good defensive line. We have great linebackers. I mean, Aziz Al-Shaair, he's amazing. He came out of college. He had some injuries. He went undrafted. But I don't even know what his draft, like what round, or like what was his projection of what he was supposed to be. Then you got Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, so that's great. You got Kittle, you have Debo. We have players. I just, you get to a point where you wonder if Kyle's the coach to get us there. One guy I have really fallen in love with is Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City. He has coached and been part of. Now you could say it's really just Pat Mahomes, but if anybody knows how to manage a quarterback like Trey Lance going forward sometime in the future, it would be a guy like that. You wonder if, Kyle is the guy. If, like you said, if this season goes down like it could, yeah, I think John Lynch might be the person who falls on the sword. If they were to come out next year and be bad again, like, yeah, then you have to reboot the whole thing. You might not have to reboot the roster, but structure-wise, head coach, GM, coordinators, talent evaluators, everything need to definitely be looked at. So I don't want that to happen. I want them to turn it around, which leads to my next question to you. Do you think the Niners can turn it around this season? Do you think they have what it takes? Do you think they have the players for what it takes to maybe refocus, retool during the bye week and come out and maybe make a run for this thing?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do. I talked about it earlier. I do think that part of the reason, like, why I think they have a good chance is if you start Trey Lance and he's the guy and he figures it out as the year goes on, he gets hot, similar to what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson in his rookie year, where he came in for Flacco about mid-season, took over and improved and kept improving. Now they got knocked out in the playoffs, but remember how that next year went? He won the MVP, so I think that for a lot of these guys, like, it's not over. Like, it's not over. They're coming out of the bye. They have the Colts and the Bears. They should win both of those games. The Bears are a little tough, but you should be able to beat and now Matt Nagy's not calling the plays anymore. That does make it a little bit better for the Bears. But you should be able to beat the Colts. They're 1-4 right now. And they were hurt. They're better than their record shows, but you should still beat them. Sunday Night Football, coming off of a bye, you got to win that game. But you can definitely make a playoff run. I don't think this is a championship caliber team right here.
Me neither.
Do I hope? Now that's the thing about football is, like, you might not be a championship caliber team, but we've seen teams that aren't championship caliber teams win Super Bowls because you just get on a hot streak. That's why I like the idea of rolling with Lance, because it's almost like your expectations fall down a little bit. But if you do get hot, you have such a higher ceiling, even in this season. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the championship window is closed in terms of, like, the core guys. I don't think they have that roster this year, though. And early on in the year, I definitely thought that they did, but you've seen, like, their corners can't hang against big-time receivers.
Nope.
And not having a backup plan for Jason Verrett and then not going out and making moves, because you could have got Sherm. And I know Sherm hasn't looked good in Tampa, but starting Dante Johnson over Diamador Lenore, that's a very questionable move. Like, their secondary just hasn't looked very good. And I like D'Amico. I think he's done a good job. I think he's improving each and every week. However, one thing that he does seem to do is he has a lot of faith in his players, which is good at times, depending on who those players are. But you can't have enough faith to just go, yep, we're going to toss out Dante Johnson and press man against Devontae Adams. You cannot do that. And you can't do that with Josh Norman on DeAndre Hopkins. You have to play different coverages, and you have to play more passive on the back end, else you're going to get torched. And we haven't seen the Niners defense like get torched in terms of like, oh, they just went out there and like got killed, right? But we see like third down, you need a crucial stop, and you go, why are they in this defense? They can't be in this defense. They can't be in this defense. They're gonna get torched. And then, oh look, that star wide receiver gets open, makes a catch, and converts. And that type of stuff, like the whole bend don't break stuff, like they break late in some situations just because you can't man up in some of those spots. I do like that comment as well. Eli Mitchell looks like an absolute animal. I honestly think Trey Sermon looks pretty good too, but Mitchell looks that good. Like he looks like he's the guy of the future.
His cutting ability is stupid. And I mean stupid, I mean it's amazing. I like Trey Sermon too. He just needs to learn to run his way. You know, you're not a multiple cut back. You are a one cut, put your foot in the ground and go. And when he does that, he looks really good. They do have two really good backs. Mostert is definitely missed for sure. Which brings me to a topic that I didn't write down, but I want to ask you about. I feel like the Niners' philosophy and roster building, drafting, free agency, they need to reevaluate all of it. This dependency on injured or people who have injury history or taking chances on people that have had an injury history and thinking somehow we're going to do some voodoo magic and they're not going to get hurt. And pretty much almost all of them, like Bass Bully says in the comments, they're all injury prone, like all of them. Bosa's injury prone, Debo's injury prone, Kittle's injury prone, Garoppolo's injury prone. I mean, it's when a lot of your best players, D Ford, I mean, now D has been something this year that no one expected, but you can't depend on that long term. This might be kind of like the last hurrah for a guy like D Ford, but they said last year that they took people off their draft boards who had questionable injury past or history. Do you think the Niners need to do a really good amount of self-scouting and reevaluation and kind of change a lot of what they're doing as far as how they evaluate players and talent?
Yeah, I feel like this year, like maybe not this year because I feel like this is a bad example, but like I think that they are going to shift towards that. This year felt like, everything got blown up last year. Let's run it back. Now we got our quarterback of the future, but let's run it back and try to make that final run with this group. Mostert's going to be gone. I think Ford's contract kind of forces him to stay here. I know the money got moved around, but I believe that mostly got moved around to next season. Jimmy's going to be gone. He's making like $24 million, I think, is his cap hit next year. A lot of these guys, it's tough. Debo, I don't think I would say he's injury prone just because he did have a bunch of hamstring injuries, but a lot of the issue, there we go again. A lot of the issues with that was that he came into camp and they wanted him to get lighter. This was going into his sophomore year. He didn't get lighter, and the reason they wanted him to get lighter so he could be more healthy. This year he came out, and that was a huge part of his like off-season like program or whatever it was. And this year he's looked a lot more healthy. I also think that inevitably, like you're gonna have a lot of injuries just the way that they play. If you're gonna play, we're gonna play super violent. We're gonna build around our front seven and our run game and offensive line. That's what you build, and that's the way you're kind of just like a tough, gritty team. You are going to get hurt, but that's the thing. Like Raheem Mostert, I think everyone was expecting him to go down at some point, and I don't want to like wish injury upon these guys or anything like that. But he and Jason Verrett, I think every 49er fan would have been like, yeah, more likely than not, they're going to go down, and then they both go down for the year with season-ending injuries. Now, for Raheem Mostert, they had a bunch of backup plans at running back. They have a ton of guys still, and they did have a couple weeks where it got really shallow. But they're gonna have Jeff Wilson back. They're gonna have 3 legit running backs in the backfield. Corner, they didn't, and so that's part of the like on defense. That's what's hurting them right now. Their front seven is phenomenal. They have Dre Greenlaw out right now, and in the front seven, it doesn't feel like they've skipped a beat. That's pretty impressive. But on the offensive side, like. You gotta prioritize tackle a lot more, I think. Yes, they should have drafted Asante Samuel Jr. There was a report that came out that they wanted to, and he went. Now they should have taken him in the second round, but there was a report that they wanted to take him in the third, and then I forgot what they did. They ended up moving around or something, but he got picked right before him. Their defense would look a lot different if they had Asante Samuel Jr. back there.
Yes, it
Now,
would.
luckily, Diamador Lenore looks like a baller too. So
This I just feel like the way that they've constructed their roster in the past, and the way that they've, I don't know, like they think that they could like do something and guys won't get hurt and they'll find a way. I like, depending, like you said, depending on people with injury pass to fill your roster spots. I had a feeling Brett was going to get hurt this year. I just had a feeling. One thing that really was interesting to me though is you had Mostert going after the media in the training camp, because they were trying to make, not light, but they were saying something about his knee being wrapped and saying he's injury prone, and he was all mad about it. And then he literally makes 2 runs to start the season and he's out for the rest of the season. So, like the saying from Parcells, "You are what your record is," that I believe is true. And you are what you are if you're injured all the time and you're constantly missing time every single year of your career and you cannot be counted on, you are injury prone. It's just the fact. I hate to say it. You are right about Kittle. He kind of reminds me of Gronk. It's like he's so damn physical that if you get 12 games, 13 games out of a year, that's a success. It's just weird because I have him on my Instagram and he just goes nuts in the off season. So much working out, so much weird stuff with his wife, his sister, his family. And yet the man, just for some reason, his body just betrays him. Hopefully he comes back and we don't have any more hospital balls from either of our quarterbacks, because that pisses me off. When I see stuff like that, I get so mad because even my own brother was a Dolphins fan. He's like, man, Garoppolo, he's the worst, trying to get people killed,
And that's something too. Like, I think that's a huge factor. Because when I watched, and I don't know if have you ever heard what Tom Brady says about that stuff?
Mm-mm.
He says that if you throw a hospital ball like that, he said it is every single time that is on the quarterback. He said there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is on the quarterback every time. That's the guy you want to listen to for that kind of advice.
Yep.
Another guy that you were talking about, this injury stuff, the D Ford trade. The D Ford trade is going to go down as one of the worst trades of the NFL.
The Niners got bamboozled totally in that trade.
Because at the end of the day, like, D Ford made DeForest Buckner's money. I know everyone wants to talk about Eric Armstead, and Eric Armstead's actually been pretty solid since he's got his deal. So, and he just gets so much slack. He has like his whole time at San Francisco. But the trade for D Ford, and I liked it at the time, but like looking back on it, that was really bad. Like that's gonna hurt them for the future, because they would still have DeForest Buckner if they didn't make that move. And D Ford was injured always throughout his career in Kansas City. Like, it should have been expected that he was going to go down, because like that's another guy where it's like you just see guys that go down a lot, and it sucks. Like, you can't blame them, but when you're looking at building a team, like, you have to have backup plans behind him, and you can't pay guys like D Ford a ton of money to play 10 snaps a game. Like, you just that's not how you win. So that's a very frustrating one there as well.
Yeah, I definitely thought that was one of their worst. I've made many videos about, the Niners and their injury history, but one I made one time is I just said that D Ford was one of the worst deals they ever made. The 49ers got sold damaged goods. They knew he was damaged goods, still made the trade, gave up assets for it, and they have egg on their face for making that move, and they have no one to blame but themselves. It's not like Kansas City was saying, this guy's great, he's got perfect health, you're getting a good one here. I mean, he is damn talented when he's on the field, but he's never on the field. I mean, this year so far, knock on wood, he's been okay, but he's never on the field. He's not on the field all the time. So you're right. You put that much money into something and you're only getting 12 to 15 snaps a game for a guy. That's just a bad investment. That's like a person who buys a sports car and literally only drives it 2 months out of the year and puts it and wraps it up and puts it in a garage the rest of the time. Like, why even have it? Like, If I had a nice toy like that, I want to drive it all the time, every day, as long as the weather's great. And to me, he's like a sports car. You only use him in certain situations, and you pay a lot for him, and he's not giving you the dividends or the payoff that you thought you were going to get for him. Yeah, it was a pretty horrible deal. They've had a couple of those. The Jet McKinnon one was just stupid. That was one of the worst moves. Kyle, when he gets his mind set on something, whether it's a draft pick or somebody said bad analogy. Sorry. But Kyle, when he gets his mindset on something, he's going to make the move and get the guy. So there's not that much you can do about it. But this is definitely what's that?
That's a trait of great coaches. I brought this up the other day. So do you know that this is I've read this in a Michael Lombardi book, but when Steve Young was potentially coming over, there was only one guy in the entire 49ers front office that wanted him. That guy was Bill Walsh. They went in, there was a meeting, and basically Bill Walsh came out and was like, hey, I think we should make a trade for Steve Young. Like, who's with me? And nobody raised their hand. Nobody was for it. And apparently Bill Walsh got very angry, left the room screaming and cursing, went into his office, closed, locked the door, and traded for Steve Young. So there's a method to the madness, but Jet McKinnon and D Ford don't help that case.
Yeah, that was bad, and he had a little bit of equity too. I mean, he had 2 Super Bowls at that point. So to me, you're kind of like a made man. The Steve Young trade though is kind of a necessity because Montana, towards the middle of the 80s started having some serious injury problems. So somebody made in the comments, I can't believe Steve Young is 60. I know, that's crazy, man. I remember when Joe Montana retired at 38, and now I'll be 42 in like 4 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, whatever. It's just weird, man. That all my, I can't say heroes because I don't really believe in football players to be heroes, but all my favorite athletes from when I was a kid are like all old men now. And it like plays on your brain a little bit. So one day you'll be there, you'll be in your 40s, and LeBron will be like a super old guy, and you'll be like, I remember when I'm at the same place right now. So very, very interesting. Tired legs, cargo plane McKinnon. What's that?
I was gonna say, it's also weird for me because like guys are retiring now. And when I was like younger and watching, like you don't really think of that. And then it's like, oh, this guy's he's been out of the league for a few years now. So I feel like I'm starting to get to the age where it's like, oh, especially for football, because careers aren't very long.
Right.
Oh, that guy. Oh, Brandon Jacobs. Like his name was talked about this offseason. I was like, oh my God, Brandon Jacobs, what a name to bring up,
Didn't we trade for him? And like, it was like probably one of the worst trades ever. I remember.
I don't know.
We made a trade for him, and he was supposed to be like our short yardage back. I forgot what exactly happened, or did we try? I don't know. It's been a long time. It was during the Harbaugh era.
It definitely could be the case. That sounds like a Harbaugh guy.
It's been a long time. A lot of people are starting to get really crazy and say that the Niners were better off with Harbaugh. And I'm like, oh my God. That's when like we need to start winning games, because people are going back and talking about Harbaugh and this and that. And it's like, dude, like, don't go backwards, only go forward. Yeah, it was a cool time with him, but it didn't last. It wasn't sustainable. He wears out his welcome everywhere he goes. So I think Kyle Shanahan, if we were to fire him, he would get a job in a heartbeat, honestly. So hopefully he can turn things around. Hopefully the Niners can turn things around off this bye week, and we could all be happy. And like you said, probably might be a Super Bowl team this year, but if we could at least make a run for a wild card this year, that would satisfy me very much. I know that's kind of sad coming from the era I grew up in when we were winning Super Bowls, but right now I just want to take another winning season, and I'll take it. If you want to plug your social media, your channel, and all that stuff before we get out of here, let people know where to find you. I want everybody in the chat to listen to this man and go subscribe to Nuggets of Gold 49ers Media YouTube channel. They do a really good job. I think they need more eyes on them, and I want everybody to do their best to help them out, help them grow. If you want to let everybody know where to find you, let them know.
Yeah, I appreciate that a ton. My Twitter's right here, Matt Keimer, just my name. And then it's Nuggets of Gold, 49ers Media. That's the YouTube account. And I try, like I said this earlier, I try to post every day. Today I didn't post, but just I came on your show. Wasn't going to do a double recording, but post almost every day. During the off season, I'm going to also start doing draft profiles where I do like a 5-minute video on a guy every single day. And those will just be like, each day a quick scouting report on a given guy. So that will come in the off season. So I'll be bringing content out this off season as well. But during the week, I do a video after every game, and then I just kind of talk about whatever I want to talk about. Earlier this week, I talked about Mike McGlinchey. I've talked a lot about Brandon Ayuk over the last couple of weeks. I feel like, of course, a lot about Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, all of that stuff. But really, just whatever topics are going around. We had some great ones today. I'll probably be talking about potential. Now, this is a little bit specific, but like potential coaching moves within the 49ers to help Trey Lance. Won't be about Kyle Shanahan, but will be about bringing in other coaches. A couple guys that I really like that could potentially work with Trey and improve those mechanics. One of the big guys I'll be talking about is Jordan Palmer, I think he's the best quarterback coach in the world. He's the guy that really helped Josh Allen take it to that next step. So I think that they should, look into some potential things where it's like, all right, this should be the focus. So I'm a big Trey Lance guy. Love Trey Lance. Another guy I love, Brandon Ayuk. Been frustrating year so far. We'll see how that plays out. I absolutely think that they need to feed him the ball more, but my channel is mostly pretty much just 49er stuff. And then it will be some general NFL stuff in terms of scouting, but of course that can be related to the Niners as well. But yeah, thank you for having me on. Super fun talking about the Niners. Cool to hear other opinions, and also, really appreciate you having me on as well. So thanks.
Definitely. And you've been, this was a lot more subdued than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be a lot more angry. I think I got it out of my system the other day, but yeah, I'll definitely look into that video that you make about Jordan Palmer, because I do think that, like Grant said, I think he needs a really high level quarterback coach to kind of help him grow his career. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a sign of like a guy sucking. It's just the fact that a guy might need some coaching, whether it's mechanics, footwork, both, way he reads a defense, all of it. So I'm totally for it too. I'll definitely keep my eye out for that video for sure. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Matt. Appreciate it. I'd like to do this again down the road. I always like to collaborate with people, down the road. I'll go on your show, you and your co-host. I'd love to come on there. Definitely. And again, thanks for coming on, everybody. Thank you in the chat. Thank you for the $2 super chat, 49ers Ultimate Report. And until next time, everybody, stay safe and healthy. And as you know, as I always say, I'll see you on the flip side. Bye, everyone.